welcome to this episode of PSI Couch Chat. I'm so excited for today's episode because we have a vendor and a partner to PSI that's joining the couch here with me today, Phil Nussdorfer from Edge Technology. Edge is a partner to us and has been for many, many years, but what Edge Technology does is really provides computer and networking support, managed service provider type stuff for small to mid-sized companies. And that's a huge part that we all need to be thinking about right now because of security. And what happens in your company can easily come down if there is an attack or if there is something that's not good in the world. And unfortunately, we're all dealing with a little bit of that. So that's why I'm bringing Phil to have this conversation with us today. Phil, welcome to the PSI Couch.
Well, thank you very much. I think as far as what I wanted to talk about today, you just stole some of my thunder, or maybe it was foreshadowing the security piece. That's a huge part of what we do for our clients. So
it is.
Thank you very much for having me here, and I look forward to the conversation.
It is absolutely my pleasure, and I am confident that all of our viewers are also going to really enjoy hearing how they can keep themselves protected. And I will say, I'm hoping that we can go not just from a corporate perspective, but even if you have any little tidbits, how our personal viewers and just individual users can make ourselves a little bit more secure.
Can definitely do that. Can definitely be able to help out with that.
Great. Okay. Phil, would you mind maybe starting from the beginning a little with us and tell us about your journey, how you got into the technology space? You know, what was the first thing that sparked your interest in technology?
That's a great question. I've been interested in technology since I was very young. I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but in elementary school, and so this would have been maybe late 70s, 78 or so, there was a computer class that I was lucky enough to be a part of, but it was at a time where our school didn't even have a computer. So the computer class was literally as basic as learning input, processing, output. So the core of how computers work is what I had the opportunity to learn in that class. And then I was lucky enough to have a father who would never pass a Radio Shack. If we drove by Radio Shack, we were stopping to look at that time, the TRS-80, the Tandy computers. We were always stopping to look at those computers and always had a computer at home.
Yeah.
But again, that was far enough back that these were computers that when you wrote programs on them, you recorded them onto a cassette tape.
Yeah.
So it was magnetic media. It was a very, very early computing experience. And that sort of launched me.
That's awesome, though. At least it wasn't in the super old first computing where you had to punch the cards, the code, and feed it in. At least it's not that.
That's true. I missed the punch cards.
You missed it. You missed the punch cards,
Yes.
but that's great. True. Well, that's awesome that you started at such a young age. Did you notice in school, even at that young age, that you just had an aptitude for understanding it?
I did. I really enjoyed working with the technology. It's really important to me to understand how something works, not just what it does or how to do it, but how it actually works. And understanding that why drives me. And so technology has been a great field for me because I can always work to understand the why. And then once I understand the why, I can figure out the how from an implementation standpoint.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
Now, did you maintain a career in IT before you started your own company?
That also is a great question. No, I did not. I went kind of a roundabout way to get back to technology. So my degree is in political science, of all things. So
good poli-sci. I like it. I like it.
I was on that poli-sci track. I love political philosophy and that piece too, but I won't. That's not what we're talking about here today.
Let's keep it not.
Yes. So, but during that time, though, I was still involved with computers. I always had a computer for writing papers, printer, so working with that technology. And then when I graduated from college, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do. And there were a couple of different paths I could take, and I ended up taking a job at Radio Shack as a store manager.
Oh.
So I managed a Radio Shack for a couple of years. That was a really demanding occupation at that time, and so I had a very long commute, and so I was looking for something closer and went to work for a software company.
Okay.
doing technical support. So at that point, my interest in technology really came full circle. I was back in it, and what I loved about that job was they actually would pay me for an hour a day to put my feet up on the desk and read.
Oh,
And that's another piece of my personality. I'm a voracious reader.
okay.
I love to read. And so I just sucked up all the knowledge that I possibly could. It was also a small business. And so it was the kind of environment that allowed me really to grow from a technology standpoint. There was technology I could work with on a daily basis. And it also launched me on the programming path because it was a database application that we were developing for financial planners. So I had to learn the database piece, and it gave me the chance, management skills, technical skills, all of those things wrapped up into one. So
That's awesome.
that
That's
was how I
awesome.
got back into technology.
I love that. And then what made you say, you know what, I'm going to take the leap and start my own company? Because that's not for the weak of heart. You know, you've got to have a lot of ambition and guts and patience to start your own company.
That's very true. I always thought that I would own a business. I wasn't sure what it was going to look like, what it was going to be, but I was pretty confident at some point that I was going to own my own business. And what I saw was the opportunity, because of my technical knowledge and the need in the small business market for that expertise, I really saw the opportunity to take my skill set and move it into a business that provided those support services to small businesses.
That's awesome.
So, and I had a lot of management roles. I had done a lot of hiring, a lot of employee management. Unfortunately, firing, all of those pieces that come with it. I had that experience, felt pretty comfortable with it. I had managed at Radio Shack. As a store manager, you were compensated based on the performance of the store, profitability of the store. So I had managed a P&L statement. I understood an income statement. I understood staffing and all of those pieces, those core pieces that you have to know to start a business. So I felt pretty well prepared for that.
That's awesome. And are you ever really fully prepared to own a company even after you own it? I don't know. It's always a learning curve, right?
That's very true.
Always a learning curve. So talk to us about Edge Technologies. Tell our viewers, I know very well what you guys do because we've been partnering so long, but tell us about what Edge Technologies does and why somebody would work with you.
Great. Yeah, Edge Technology is a managed service provider. We target the small end of the small business market. So we're really looking at clients that are 5 to 50 computers, and our average size is 12 to 15 computers. We really hang our hat on our responsiveness. So when our clients need us and need help, we're there for them. We also, from a hiring standpoint, focus on attitude and aptitude. If the person has that kind of attitude where they like helping people, and then they also have the aptitude to learn, we can teach them the technical side of what we do. I've never, in all the years I've been doing this, successfully taken somebody who didn't care about customer service and turned them into a customer service superstar.
Yeah.
We can make marginal movement on that scale, but not a lot.
Yeah.
So we really hire for aptitude and attitude. From a services standpoint, we've also really focused our company on the security side that you mentioned. So we have really strong security solutions, and we have a really strong and knowledgeable team internally. But even with our security solutions, we have those backed by 24/7 security operations centers that are monitoring the alerts that happen and allow us to respond a lot more quickly. So we've got trained experts, analysts in the field that are watching those alerts when they come in. They review them, and if they determine that it is actually a breach or looks like a security incident, then they're going to escalate to our team. And so for a small business, having that team behind you from a security standpoint who not only has the tools but has the knowledge to implement the tools and knows what they mean is really important.
It is.
So that's been a huge part of what we do. And then, of course, the forgotten part of security is data protection and backups. And so that's a big part of what we do as well. Managed, monitored backup solutions that allow us to, the client can be confident that if something does happen, we're able to recover that data and get them moving as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I can be a walking commercial for you guys from implementations that we've done when we had to take everything off of the computers where everybody was just kind of habitually hitting save and it was only on my machine and nobody else could have access. So then we brought it in the cloud and then we went to 360 and then SharePoint. Yeah. But we had Edge Technologies holding our hands through all of these iterations and teaching us how to make it happen. So it's great.
And you were great to work with in that process.
Well,
and
of course I was.
it is a challenge for everybody. It's a very big shift. It's a huge change. But what I've seen is time and time again, okay, we need to do it. The decision gets made. We start the implementation and it's a really scary change and everybody has a hard time adjusting to it. And then we get to the end of the implementation and you realize just how much more efficient you are working because that data is available no matter where
That's right.
doesn't matter where you're at. And you can have multiple people in the same file working at the same time. And a lot of businesses have Excel spreadsheets. We've got a lot of legal clients that have long pleadings and different attorneys and paralegals will be working in different parts of the document. With SharePoint, they can do that.
Yeah.
And that collaboration is really powerful.
Question for you that's not on my list, so I'm sorry if I'm throwing you a curveball here.
I'll be okay.
But you will be, yes you will. When we talk about security and you talk about location and accessing documents wherever you are, at what point does the VPN block so if I'm in Japan or France, where some friends recently thought I was, not yet, but I've been there, just not this time. If I'm in France and I want to reach into my documents and I don't necessarily have my computer and I'm logging in through office.com and I'm using my login, will the VPN from my company that you guys have set up prevent me if I'm in certain geographic locations?
Well, that's the beautiful part of SharePoint. With SharePoint, you don't necessarily have to have the VPN. So with SharePoint, you can just connect as long as you have an internet connection. The other piece of that, though, is with certain types of licensing, we can do what's called conditional access. So we can limit geographically where you're allowed to log in from.
Okay.
So we could say, if you travel frequently to France, we could say, okay, it's all right to log in from Europe, the European countries. But we don't want any logins from China. We don't want any logins from North Korea, any of the stands,
Sure.
any company or any country that may be a threat or likely location that could be a threat, we could block.
That's nice.
The challenge with that, though, is a lot of the attacks now are coming from people that are using a VPN, connecting, and then it looks like it's coming from a US-based IP address.
Yeah.
So in that case, that conditional access doesn't help.
happen.
But what does work from a security standpoint is we're still monitoring logins. So we can see if you log in Columbus and then 2 minutes later you log in Los Angeles, that would be impossible travel. That would be flagged.
Yeah.
And then we would respond to it and we'd give you a call and say, hey, Monica, are you in Los Angeles right now?
Yeah.
And you say, no, I'm not. And then we can go through the process
Yeah.
of cleaning that mailbox up.
Yeah. And I think that those are all very valid things that we use your company for. So now I want to transition to that part. For my viewers out here, we've been partnering with you since 2015. So 9 years of a service provider, that is a long time. So that to me signifies that you guys do your job really stinking well, because if you didn't, we'd be looking elsewhere. So talk to me a little bit about working with PSI and maybe specifically around if there was a project or something that we worked on that you have vivid memories of, either good, bad, or indifferent, but that we can share some experiences with.
Yeah, there's one in particular that comes to mind, and that is you had a specialized piece of software that gathered information from different job posting sites, scraped it, pulled it together, and then provided it to your staff. The challenge with that was it was just built to run in a workstation environment, not in a server environment. So it was very difficult for us. It was very important for you to know that it was up and running. It was very important for us to know if it wasn't running so we could address that and get it back online. There were some challenges with that because of the way the software had been written, but we did develop a really strong solution that let us know within a couple of minutes if it went offline, that that application was no longer running. We could take action, log in, restart the application before you even knew there was a problem. So that was one of the projects. Migrating your data to SharePoint was another great project to work with you on. That was, it was a big project, and I really think from what we can see that, again, it was a big benefit to your organization and helped you from a security standpoint.
Definitely, I concur with that. And I also don't want to jump off of this topic until I mention how awesome your team is. So I do want to say he's very honest when he says that he's hiring, and you guys are hiring for aptitude and ability and personality too, though. So Dylan was somebody who started with you how many years ago?
I think it's been 6 years, going on 7 years.
6 years, and when he came in and started with us, and now I know he's gotten a promotion, but he still takes my calls. He still is the guy who I text, and he probably hates that, but Dylan, I love you, even if you hate that I'm texting you all the time. But that is, I think, a testament to what you're saying about the hiring that you do and around-the-clock care. So as a client, thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you for that feedback.
Of course.
Dylan will be glad to hear that. And we do that with our clients. If it's a more complex environment, a larger environment, those senior people that you started with or that you really get to know and like, they'll hold on to a few clients. So Dylan is still an active part of managing PSI.
Yeah, no, we love it. I want to transition to clients. So potential clients out there for you, and this is maybe where we can dabble into on the end side of just what individuals can be doing, but what are some of the biggest challenges that you're hearing with your clients right now that they're having on their back end or their network? What's the trend, if you will, of the challenges that are happening right now?
The biggest challenge that we're seeing right now is around security. So I'll start on the personal side. If you're not using a password manager, you have to get a password manager. There are a number of free or low-cost solutions out there, and it significantly increases the security of your online accounts. And everybody has 20, 30, 50, 100, 150, 200 online accounts. If you think about all the different accounts that you have, if you don't have a password manager, it's impossible to generate unique, secure passwords for each one of those accounts. So what people do is they reuse passwords. And the problem with reusing the password is if a website gets compromised with that email address and that password, the attackers then have that combination, and they're going to use that on every website that they can think of. And at that point, then you really have no defense. So a password manager allows you to create a unique, secure password for each one of those web accounts, stored in a central secure database, and then you just have to remember to log on for your password manager.
Okay.
So you remember one password, but you have passwords for all of the different resources that you use.
How often can those get hacked?
There have been security incidents with the password manager companies. I'm not aware of any situation where those private keys that are used to encrypt that data have been compromised.
That's good to know.
There was a significant event a couple of years ago with a company called LastPass, where an attacker was able to pull the actual vaults, the actual files, but they didn't have the keys to decrypt them. So as long as they're secured with a strong password, that data should be secure. Although I'd still recommend going through just for safety's sake and resetting those passwords.
Well, and they even have, I know Google password managers. So they even have some that are built into the apps that you're already using, built into the websites that you already go to, right?
I would be careful with any browser-based password manager, though the security on those is not as clear. So I would look at Keeper is a really good resource. 1Password is a really good resource. LastPass at this point, I'm confident that they've addressed the issues that allowed that breach to occur before, so I wouldn't be afraid of using them either. And it gives you a secure place to store those passwords. You can access it across all of your devices, so on your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, Doesn't matter what you're using, you've got access to that information.
Nice. All right, so that's on the personal side.
Mhm.
What are you seeing from corporations?
It's security also.
Okay.
And so when we bring a new client on, a lot of times it's because they haven't been comfortable with the level of security that their current provider had in their environment. So we have a fantastic next generation antivirus solution that watches what programs are doing on the computer, not just a list of known bad programs. So it watches the behavior of the applications, and if it sees an application encrypting data, for example, it's going to shut that application down, and it's going to notify us that there's a potential problem on that computer. We use that. I mentioned the 24/7 Security Operations Center, so they're monitoring what's happening there. We also use what's called a Security Incident and Event Management tool, and that's a SIM. And what the SIM does is it scoops up all of the log files on the local computer, in your Microsoft 365 environment, almost any environment that you can think of, firewalls, that type of functionality, scoops all those up, analyzes it, and looks for again, log entries that would indicate some type of breach. If they see that, then they escalate that to our team.
Wow.
Again, that's backed by a 24/7 Security Operations Center as well. And then for our backups, we have fantastic backup solutions. So
I love it.
really at the end of the day, what we're looking to do for our clients is make sure that they have secure, efficient environments that allow their employees to be as productive as possible.
Well, isn't
That's
that what
what
we
we're
all
looking for.
want? And
Yes.
so I love that. I love that. And Edge Technologies is a company that can help you provide your people with that security and that protection.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
fantastic.
That's what we do.
Is there any trends that you're seeing in the industry right now that are something that you would say, you know, these business owners should be aware of?
The big one, of course, is AI.
Oh, yep.
And the reality, at least in my experience, has been many of our clients are at least dipping a toe into artificial intelligence. The AI tools that are out there are good. I wouldn't call them great yet, but they can be really helpful from a productivity standpoint.
Sure.
So where I personally use it is if I have a difficult email to write, for example. I'm the kind of person that for me to write that email, it might take me 2.5 hours. I'm going to agonize over every comma, every period, every word in that email, and it's a chore. With ChatGPT, I can go in, I can write my prompt, and I get a good framework that allows me then to very quickly personalize and send that email. So it takes me 5 minutes instead of 2.5 hours.
You know, I find it so interesting that so many people are using ChatGPT and then copying it and just hitting send.
Can't do
And
that.
you can't do that, but they're just making that mistake of not doing that personalization. But one of the big things, I was just at a conference, and we were, of course, talking about AI. It was a security conference, and the overall arching theme was you can't be scared to use it. If you're not going to use AI, you're going to be passed, because it's in our industry to stay now. And one thing I want to just kind of piggyback on with what you're saying, you're right, especially ChatGPT and any of these AI functionalities, they're immature at this phase because they're immature, they're brand new. But the more you use them, especially if you purchase an account and you're just not using a free one, then it's almost like the ChatGPT, the AI, and machine learning kind of learn you. And they learn the more you use it and the more you correct it, or the more you identify what your needs are, then you're actually training the program to help you better sound like you in your company. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's amazing. The more you use it, the more it learns about you and your company, and the better the responses it gives. I've been very amazed. I've used it for even things like building standard operating procedures. So we're really big on processes and systems. So anytime we have something that we're repeating, we're going to build a standard operating procedure. Again, to do it manually can take a significant amount of time. Where now I've worked enough with ChatGPT that I can say, I'm a managed service provider, we need to perform this task, give me a standard operating procedure for that. And it'll give me 80% of what I need in a very quick amount of time. The only thing I will say about AI is be very careful what you're sharing with the tool, because it is public
it's public.
information. So I wouldn't put certainly anything confidential in it. I wouldn't put anything that's financial related into it. But just for generic information that it could scrape off of the cloud anyway,
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about that.
But there are some paid services. So even with ChatGPT, I have a corporate paid side, so then it's safe, right? So any of the data that I'm putting in there is not part of that public. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, there are companies that are developing their own private AI engines.
Yeah.
It's still immature enough that I'm not
Gonna
100%
trust.
sure that I fully trust that. So
Yeah.
I'm careful of what I put into
Yeah.
it. But we're also leveraging it in our ticketing solution. So when our staff sends an email, the email text that they're sending goes through ChatGPT, and so it gets corrected for grammar, punctuation, spelling.
Wow.
So everything that we send out looks professional, at least it's spelled correctly. We could even add a tone check to it, but that's when it started to feel AI-like.
Yeah.
So we removed the tone check. It just
Yeah.
sounded a little too
Too
friendly.
fake, yeah.
And so we dropped that. But the spelling and the grammar piece, we have
Totally
great
needed.
people at Edge Technology, fantastic people, very, very skilled, very knowledgeable. Not everybody there can spell. So it helps tremendously to
Indeed.
do that. We also have, we use AI to scan, when we close a ticket, a lot of times we get a response back from our clients saying thank you.
Yeah.
Well, in our system, then it reopens the ticket.
Oh.
From a statistics standpoint, then it shows that, because we want
It
to
wasn't
resolve the
first
issue
call
and close the
resolution.
ticket. Yeah,
Mhm.
it shows that the ticket's been reopened. So from a KPI standpoint, it's a negative when the client was just saying thank you. Well, we use AI to scan those responses, and if it's just a thank you or a thanks, it doesn't reopen the ticket.
Oh, nice.
So there's some little things like that that we've been doing, leveraging AI in our business on a daily basis.
Well, that's, I think, tremendous for people to hear, that that's staying ahead of the curve, that's using the new technologies that are coming out, and you're using them to your benefit, and how can you maximize the benefit in staying ahead of anything negative that could be taking a number down or something. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I want to ask a couple questions, or really one question around personally. What would you say in this journey of everything, and thank you for sharing so openly with us, what has been an amazing lesson that you've learned in having a technology company?
There are a lot of lessons that I've learned. One of the things that I think is probably the biggest thing that I've learned is, at least for me personally, I have a tendency to get bored easily. And owning a business and owning an IT company means I'm never bored.
Yeah.
So for me, I have to have that challenge. I have to have something new to learn. It's what drives me and keeps me going, even though it can be super stressful at times. It's just a weird dichotomy in my personality. I love it and hate it at the same
Yeah.
time. I just have to have that. And so owning an IT company gives me a chance to do that. I'm never bored, and every time I feel like, oh, I've really got this figured out, now I can just kick back and relax. I know now when I get that feeling, there's something coming that's going to remind me, no, you don't.
Yeah.
There's more to learn.
You always have to stay on your toes.
Yes.
Now, speaking of staying on your toes, all of my viewers know that my hobby to keep me balanced and not so always in my head around work is Latin ballroom dancing. What is your thing that you do for you personally to allow some of that energy to get out?
I love being outside. So I'm a big skier. I love to ski.
Water or snow?
Not water anymore. Snow
Okay.
still.
Okay.
When I was younger, I was a water skier.
Okay.
I haven't done that for a few years, but snow skiing. I love to ski. I grew up in northern Michigan,
Okay.
near Traverse City. Beautiful area, fantastic winters. And actually, I'm a very tall person, but I didn't play basketball in high school because I skied on the downhill ski team.
Okay.
So I grew up skiing, absolutely love it. So in the winter, that's what
That's
I
what you
want
do.
to do. And then spending time with my family. I do have the grandchild, Donovan, who's just fantastic. And luckily they live here in Columbus. My son actually works at Edge Technology as well. So getting to spend time with him, I love doing that. I love to fish, be out on the water too, kayak, boat, those types of things.
That's fantastic.
And then I love to read. I'm typically 2 to 3 books a month is my pace. I love to read, and that's one of the things, along with taking me to Radio Shack every time we drove past one, that I think my parents really instilled in me that helped me become the person that I am, is that love of reading.
I love this. Well, Phil, thank you so much for joining PSI and sitting on the couch here with me and being so open to having a conversation with all of our viewers. And for my viewers out there, please get in touch with Edge Technologies. You can do that by going to Edge technology.com.
Right.
So it's edge-technology.com. And you can get in touch with any one of your team members who will be amazing to help onboard you or answer any questions that you have. We can link some of this in our show notes if that assists and helps as well. But one just last commercial, please get in touch with Edge Technologies. These are the guys and gals who will help you with all of your technology needs, your process needs, your systems needs, and of course all of your training needs to help you get mindful and be secure with your network and your company. Is there anything else you'd like to say to my listeners and viewers?
I would just like to say thank you so much for having me, Monica. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully I didn't trip over my words too much, and hopefully I was able to share some knowledge and help somebody out today. So
Well,
thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure. It was a thrill to have you here. And to all of our viewers, thank you for joining in. And we will be back in another couple of months with our next episode of PSI Couch Chat.